Call this meeting to order. We have our invocation today by Mr. Bernard.
We pray today to be one with all of God's creation. We honor you, Holy Spirit, the creator of all life and of the environment that sustains and nourishes it. As creations within that greater whole given to us by you, we seek your blessings on all of your creation. We seek your guidance as your humble servants, so that we may continue to recognize and revere your presence within all life and all elements of the environment. Help us to recognize our duties as caretakers for all God's creation. Help us to honor and celebrate your very essence of all that surrounds us and fills us. Help us to be grateful for giving us the air that we breathe, the soil that nourishes us, and the life-giving waters that sustain us. We pray that all inhabitants will be respectful of earth and treat it well, making right decisions that will bless generations for years to come. Amen.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Thank you. Roll call, please, Mr. Clark.
Truck. Present. Mrs. Washington.
Here. Present.
Mr. Burgess. Mr. Stauffenberg.
Present.
Mr. Whitten.
Present.
Ms. Bernard.
Present.
Mr. Marcotte. Present. Mr. James.
Present.
Mr. McLaren.
Present.
Mr. Vickery.
Present.
Mrs. Barber. Mrs. Schmidt. Present. Mr. Nicholas.
Present.
Mr. Rolkoff. Mr. Lear. Mr. Scholl.
Present.
Mr. Haps.
Present.
Mrs. Campbell.
Present.
Mr. Lecky. Mrs. McBride. Mr. Yates.
Present.
Mr. Inns.
Present.
Mr. Whited.
Present.
Mr. Tolan.
Present.
Mr. Pope. Mr. Arsenault.
Present.
Mr. Connell.
Okay.
Mr. Foster.
We have a quorum. Should explain that Mr. Lear is on a trip he had scheduled sometime back. I will. Informed us of that actually. First of all, public commentary. I have several requests, 13 or 14. Unless we consolidate some comments, we're going to be limited to about 1 minute each. So I would suggest you try to cede your time to a spokesman on some of these issues, if you can. In no particular order, Mary Chaplin.
I would just like to say
I'm
that...
sorry, where you go? Go ahead.
Tip that down.
Yeah, now it is.
There you go.
There. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I would just like to say I do hope you will continue to fight the dump, that we really don't need to have that go in there. It's going to be bad for our water supply. It's not going to be good for us, and let's go ahead and fight it, because it will help us in later years for our children. Anyhow, that's what I came to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Tom Clark.
it or not?
Good morning. I am here today to speak in favor of continuing the service agreement with the Economic Alliance. As all of you may remember, some 4 months ago I appeared before this honorable body, and at that time I talked about the possibility of retaining some 25 jobs that were being lost as Kankakee determined they wanted to relocate operations to another state. I talked about saving some 165 jobs for developmentally disabled adults at the agency I am fortunate enough to lead. I talked about creating additional work in the community. Today I'm pleased to report that because of the work of the Economic Alliance, those possibilities have now become reality. Under the leadership of Chairman Joe Franco, and with the able direction of Executive Director Mike Van Mill, we were able to structure a public-private partnership that brought about real economic development in this area. Now, there may be those who at this time of economic distress question the need for a countywide economic development effort. I say now more than ever, there's a sense of urgency. There is a sense for this county to come together to represent and speak with one voice as we retain jobs and create new jobs in an emerging and new economy. The Economic Alliance was never established to replace the rightful role of government. And contrary to what we see going on today nationally, the fact of the matter is that government and the economy government should have a limited role in economic life. I think we would all agree. But the Economic Alliance, both in our specific case and for many other cases in this county, has accomplished three very important things. First of all, they have created an environment wherein business partners could come together. An environment wherein constructive economic dialogue of mutual benefit could take place. Secondly, the Economic Alliance, working with the county, and because of the interest and concern and commitment of each of you in this county board, providing public financing to leverage private investment. And indeed, that has happened. And finally, the Economic Alliance has been willing to bring together those strategic partners necessary to bring about the kind of positive change needed in this county. So today I ask for your affirmative support of the service agreement. This is an organization direly needed in this county now more than ever. It has capable leadership, a determined agenda, and clear initiatives. And I am pleased and proud to have had the distinct honor of working with the organization during this past year. So I thank you and I urge your affirmative support.
Next is Mary Archer. Archie.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of, I'll just wait until you get done laughing. Something was funny. I'm here to speak on the landfill, that we should continue to fight this landfill because of future generations, because the life you save might be your own grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And this is a very serious matter that's coming to Kankakee, and I think that it should stop right now. We don't need another landfill, and the place where it's being put, you need to take a long look at where it's going to be, where it's flooding area there, and also we know that you can put a double line, a triple line, and it's not going to stop it from leaking. You might be healthy today, and everything is going okay in your life, but you don't know what the rest of today is going to bring. You don't know what it's like to see someone sitting in your loved ones dying with cancer, eating up with radiation. You don't know when there's a sick child that's coming into the emergency rooms. I have been in the medical field for 35 years when they cannot breathe because of pollution in the air. You don't know that until it hit home. When it hit home, then it's a different situation. But what we're doing now, we need to do preventive things. We do not. Our water is bad enough as it is. So why put more pollution in there that we know they cannot filter? If they can't take mercury out right now, do you think they're going to be able to take this out? So would you please hear us and stop this landfill in Kankakee? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Loris James.
Good morning. The first thing I'd like to say is the young lady that gave the prayer this morning said it all really in one phrase. We're here to take care of the land that has been given unto us. And if we allow the landfills, I'm here to speak on two issues right quickly. If we allow that landfill to come in, it will affect the generations to come. But my main concern today is access public television. Because we seniors, we have a problem getting to to the meetings, disabilities. We have disabled people who cannot come to these meetings, but would love to know what's going on. So today I stand asking for Access Public Television, as well as saying no landfill.
Next is Richard Weeks.
Good morning. I would just like to echo the sentiments of some of the previous comments. I also would like to urge you to continue the fight against the landfill. I think whatever money is spent now to do that would be a tremendous investment in the future of this community. I think we have to look forward to the future because there's no one there except us that can protect them. So I hope you gentlemen and ladies will continue this fight. Thank you.
Next is Sheriff Jones.
Good morning, county board members and citizens who are here from our county. For those who don't know me, I am Alderman Cheryl Jones. I'm here today as a concerned citizen. I'm asking you to continue the fight of the city proposed Barber Volini landfill, with the site to be built over, not only over our aquifer, but into our aquifer. I know some of you are feeling the pressure of our economy right now, but your decision affects all of us. Everyone knows a landfill liner leaks. It's not a question of will it leak, it's when it leaks. Because the chances of a liner might leak not leak in your or my lifetime, but in our children's or their children's lifetime. So when you vote today, you are not only voting today on saving money for the county, but you're voting on the county's future. I'm requesting you to take a moment now and turn around and look at the faces of the people in this room. If you would please turn around and look at the faces of the people in the room. We cared enough to come here today. The question is, do you care enough for the people you represent? If you do, continue to fight and send a message throughout this county that you care enough and that you are keeping their water supply safe to drink. Thank you.
Next is Diane Boone.
Hello. Morning. Mr. Jamie Boyd, some of these citizens back here said, will you please pay attention and give us respect? Thank you.
Y'all want to put that on me. Ain't gonna talk, we're gonna show.
Okay. Okay. We need somewhere for our garbage to go, but we don't need our water supply to be jeopardized in the process. We need recycling, and yes, we need jobs. We need recycling to turn into hard plastic so we can create jobs for this community. I have a problem with the county board and the city of Kankakee because this thing been going on ever since 2001, and we still fighting over this situation. Now, we elected you all to make good decisions for us as citizens, and so far, look like the city or the county board has been asleep at the switch. So you all need to get it together here. A landfill, I can't say we need one or don't need one, because when you look at the garbage situation throughout Kankakee, it's flying everywhere. And you got bottles and plastic jugs and everything everywhere. And if you don't get somewhere for it to go, it's going to be a situation that we're going to have to deal with in the future. Now, a lot of people here is disagreeing with this landfill because of the location. And I think we all need to get together as community leaders, elected officials, and resolve this problem, because here's a problem. And we also know it's big business, it's big money involved. And that's why a lot of people looking at that dollar and not looking at the lives of the peoples. But Kankakee and the county board, we all elected you all to work together, not separatism. Work together and stop putting them egos before lives and money, because that's not fair to us. We elected you to do a good job, and that's what we expect out of you all. And so far, right now, your report card, you have an F-. Thank you.
Next is Martina Ripon. Martina?
What's the name, Martina?
Martina
Rippon. Martina Rippon?
Not here? Okay. Get the vote?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the County Board, Mr. Jamie Boyd. I'm here to confirm what you may or may not have read in the newspaper that I have proposed, and I did propose this to Mr. Jamie Boyd as he came around before the election soliciting my vote, which he got. He said he was against the dump, and I said, that's wonderful. He said, but I can't guarantee a fight there because I may not get elected. I said, well, in that case, I volunteer to continue the fight pro bono. It appears now that we've got a situation where we're talking about it's going to cost too much money. First of all, I prepared and have filed a brief in the Supreme Court, which didn't take me much time because I was using the same stuff I had earlier won in the appellate court. The same thing can be true of your counsel if you decide to continue having your own counsel. But I did make an addition to the brief that's filed in the Supreme Court. This court stated as follows: the board concluded the Town and Country's application erroneously concluded that the proposed landfill was situated on an aquitard. Furthermore, Cravens, Van Hook, and Sixberries provided evidence that the site may be over an aquifer. The evidence went on to show that it was over an aquifer, and in fact, it was more or less admitted by the experts representing the proposed landfill. So this appears to be what they call in basketball a slam dunk. I wouldn't volunteer if I didn't think it was a slam dunk. I don't like to lose any more than the next guy, although I've done that a couple times. And so I would like to mention that the Supreme Court has got to have an opportunity to reverse the bad ruling that was made by Phil Novak, Blagojevich's appointment to the Pollution and Control Board after some substantial donation was made. So give the Supreme Court a chance to rectify this situation. Now, my fellow union members, and I can say I'm a fellow union member because I had a bartender's union card in South Bend when I went to Notre Dame. I used to pour beer, and it was funny. And this buddy of mine, who was a real riot, says, "You know what, Pearl?" As we were sitting there drinking beer at Pearl's Tap, he said, "I know how you could sell twice as much beer." And she said, her eyes glistening, she said, "How?" And he said, "Just fill the damn glass." All right. With that, party comment, I will bid you adieu, except to mention that we have an experiment here that we're ready to show you how red dye will go through a little peephole in a water container to show how it goes, how things heavier than water. Everything is heavier than water once it is contaminated by some substance. It makes it heavier than water. How can I say that? Because if it didn't, like oil, it makes it lighter than water. But anything else will make it, the water will be heavier because any solid has got more weight to it than water. So I'll leave you with that, and we have our experiment here. I discovered there was a little leak in my bucket, so I don't know if we can really do it all that well. Thank you.
Thanks. Next is Darrell Bruck.
Good morning. Yes, I'm also here to please ask the county board to maintain the fight. We would not be facing this second application and discussing this today if it wasn't for a pay-for-play Novak and the governor deal. This was on the front page of the Chicago Tribune. Novak was named as the $25,000 club member. As you know, the Pollution Control Board turned down this dump, and on the basis that it fails to protect the health and safety of the community. A second application was filed. The new governor was elected. Mr. Novak, according to the Chicago Tribune, donated $25,000 of his personal money. Another $19,000 he raised from friends. Blagojevich obliged and appointed him to the Pollution Control Board as chairman. It's the first time in history that a new person walks in, is appointed as chairman. The first action he does is to take the second application when it arrives to him in 2003 and do what the previous Pollution Control Board didn't do. He approved the dump at the very same location. We need to give the Supreme Court a chance to look at this. I'm very familiar with the case, the briefs, and the issues argued by your attorney as well as our attorney, and as those of us who have read this know that the appellate court has never ruled on the majority of the issues. And so the Supreme Court needs a chance to reverse this pay-for-play Novak scheme in the governors. And of course, we all know who Fred Barber is. Is there anybody in this room at this point doesn't know who he is? He was implicated in a mob bombing federal trial a little over 24 months ago in Chicago. And he's a godfather of Mayor Daley's kids and the ties that are up there in Chicago. We don't need these people in our community at such a high-risk location. Please finish the job. You can win this thing and be heroes to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, county board members. If I didn't know what had happened recently, I would be very quizzical about something that has happened, and that is, if you'll recall back in April of last year, this board voted almost unanimously to continue the fight against this dump. Now, I thought maybe something hydrogeologically had changed since then. So I contacted the U.S. Geological Survey and asked if maybe the Earth's mantle had shifted and moved the landfill site into a more geologically desirable area. They assured me the mantle has not shifted. So it's still the worst site in the county according to the Illinois Geological Survey for a landfill, according to hydrogeologist Stu Cravens. It's junk science. It will not work. The inverse gradient will not work. And you have a graphic narrative of how it doesn't work. And that's what Ed's experiment is up here. It shows you inverse gradient doesn't work for two reasons. The water table underneath varies by tens of feet, and secondly, the leachate is heavier than the water. But in addition to that, Joyce Muni of the IEPA, January 31st, 2006, stated publicly, yes, we know this landfill will leak, and yes, it will contaminate your water. But we have to take into consideration the operator, because after all, he has a lot of money invested in this. That's your IEPA. And by the way, those remarks came at just about the same time that the pay-for-play thing occurred. And the IEPA said, oh, it's beyond our control right now. Sandra Sixbury, PhD at Olivet at the time, also condemned this thing as junk science, that it would not work, it would contaminate the water. The Illinois water professionals in 2005 and 2006 agreed unanimously that this landfill should never be built. The Illinois Supreme Court obviously echoed that same sentiment when they turned down Volini 1 and said it would not protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Now let's look at some of the things that were said at the last meeting. There was a gross exaggeration of the amount of money that has been spent fighting the landfill. I went through all the bills from Henshaw and Culbertson. I did not go through the bills for Liz Harvey, staff attorney. But those came to a little over $1,500,000. About 90% of that stuff was reimbursed by Waste Management through direct reimbursements and or a $500,000 advance on host fees. So as it turns out, we worked things backward. It looks like over 8 years that the county, out of the general fund, has spent about $420,000. That's a heck of a lot less than the $2.25 to $2.5 million suggested by the state's attorney. In addition to that, what I did in looking at the Henshaw-Culbertson billing was I discovered that they were billing for 13 different items, most of which applied to the Waste Management siting hearings, the Pollution Control Board hearing that Waste Management asked for, and the fight against Town and Country that Waste Management agreed to pay for. So what happened last week was factually, or last month was factually untrue. One last comment about it, and that is that State's Attorney Boyd misled the board by saying, continuing to tell us how the appellate court didn't like us, and therefore we didn't have much of a chance. Well, that's the whole idea of going to the Supreme Court. We don't like this in the appellate court either. So that commentary was absolutely irrelevant. The idea is when the appellate court can't come to the proper decision, you appeal it to the Supreme Court. One last comment, and I'll be quiet, and that is the major function of county government is to protect the public's safety. There is nothing more challenging than protecting all of its citizens from the ravages of a toxic landfill. If you choose not to fight this, you will be remembered as the board that abdicated its responsibilities to its citizens to protect their health, safety, and welfare. Thank you. Mr. Chairman,
Mark,
may I just add a little,
we're getting short of time here, but
oh, well, it's quick and sweet.
get back to the microphone.
I neglected to mention the reason I want to represent the county is that it is conceivable that there may be a hitch in the appeal of my client who is now deceased, and I don't know what the Supreme Court is going to do about that, whether they will permit a substitute, a friend of the court, or not. But I am afraid that conceivably we could be out of court.
Mark Walkett.
Morning. My name is Mark Walkett. I wanted to relate to you the experience I've had recently talking to the folks in Lake County, Indiana about an alternative method for waste disposal where It's essentially cellulosic ethanol. It's produced, garbage to ethanol. They're real excited about it. I spent a couple hours talking to the legal counsel for the Solid Waste Management District. They will be building a $200 million plant, and they plan to get $2.50 a ton for every ton of material that goes through there, which would include biomass as well as municipal solid waste. I talked to the Northwest Indiana building trades this morning, and they're very excited about it. They plan to start construction in the spring. Promises to bring somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 permanent jobs, 300 and some union jobs for the construction of the facility. It sounds also like, according to my reading, that Kentucky has embraced is working with the same company, plans to build multiple plants. I know that we're sort of entering an era of more intelligent approaches, I hope, and the fees, they're going to get $2.50 a ton for every ton of material that goes through the plant. Will go to the Solid Waste Management District. 30 cents per gallon of ethanol. They project that a ton of garbage will produce 90 gallons of ethanol. So it's pretty substantial. They're all very excited about it. And in the Lake County's case, no public money is going to support it. It's fully invested, and they don't have any tax breaks or any other special arrangements. They plan to, according to Randy Palmatier with the building trades in Northwest Indiana, who I talked to this morning, they plan to use this facility as their example facility to fly people from all over the world there to look at it. They are modeling this. They had several proposals, or not several, two different ethanol, garbage to ethanol proposals, two different technologies. The one that they chose is, the reason they chose it is because it's based on a pilot plant that runs a ton and a half of material through it daily and has run for 5 years. So it's proven technology. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you and reassure the folks from the building trades that if we were to sort of maybe divert and embrace something like that, maybe we could see a lot more jobs. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And one more after that.
Mr. Chairman, county board members, I won't go over my minute like other folks have went about 4 or 5 minutes. You did receive a letter from me. Are you the official mic man? Or? I think so. All right. How about I move over here a little bit? It's time to bring common sense back to government. The city of Kankakee and the county should be working to get a solution. Someone said this is like a slam dunk. I refer it to Pee Wee Herman fighting George Foreman. You got both of your eyes are swollen shut, your nose is broken, bleeding, your teeth have been knocked out, and your lips are swollen. You've lost every step of the way, spent well over $1.5 million on a losing cause over technicalities. This lawsuit's not about what the EPA said is safe or what the pollution board controlled said is safe. It's over technicalities. And the risk you run if we lose this thing again is, are we gonna have a dump in Pembroke? Are we gonna have a dump in Mantino? It's time to bring common sense back to government. Sit down with the city, get this thing resolved. The sky's not falling in like some folks say it is. This is a safe, modern landfill, been approved by the EPA, has 3 times the thickness. The clay has 3 times the thickness that is recognized by the Illinois EPA. It's time to end it, quit wasting the workers' tax dollars. We're tired of seeing our tax dollars go to a wasteful spend. Get back and sit down with the city. Thank you.
Last is Dean Rankovic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just what Mike said there, the biggest problem we have here is we have governments that are spending taxpayers' money, and if you haven't realized, the economy today is the worst it's ever been. You spent excess of $1 million. Jamie Boyd, you sat here and told everybody the truth. I FOIA the information. Thank you very much. You told the truth, and it's the truth, people. It's coming out of our pockets. We represent roughly 10,000 union members in Kankakee County, not including the retirees. Unemployment yesterday, I drove past the unemployment line, is tremendous. Unemployment, it's going to go skyrocketing here. Everybody here wants to support it to stop this landfill. It's not, we're here not to say, hey, tell you what, build a landfill. What we're here to do here is tell you to stop spending our money. Like Mike said, it's a losing battle. Now, if you guys want to take his advice and hire him to do it for nothing, do it. We'll support it. Because we're tired of spending our taxpayers' money. We're losing police protection. We're going to be losing fire. It seems like everybody's cutting back, and nobody wants to take an advantage of just say, hey, enough is enough. I know you guys are elected. I was an elected official myself. The worst thing you want to do is walk up to one of your constituents and tell them, I'm going to do this. Well, I'm not going to vote for you. But you got 5 other ones that are going to come up to you and say, thank you, my taxes are high enough. I reside in the village of Gardner. I do pay taxes in this community on 5 pieces of property. Garbage since 2001, on an average, went from $41 to $190. How do you go back to your renters and tell them that this is what you need? Unemployment checks are going down. Wages are staying stagnant, 2 to 3% increases. The taxing bodies in Kankakee colleges or Kankakee County have taken 5 to 7% plus increases. School districts, fire departments, everybody else is riding our backs. We're tired of this. You have the opportunity. You see it in front of you. Jamie Boyd sat right there and told you, guys, read between the lines. The appellate court is pissed off at us. They don't want to hear this. The Supreme Court, nothing guarantees the Supreme Court's going to do this. But my checkbook is going to be depleted again. Whatever we do here, do it for the taxpayers of this community. We'll work out, if there's any issues with something there, if the engineering is off, the engineering will be corrected. You got to realize, people, that there's not going to be people here in 20 or 30 years to take advantage of anything in this community if they can't afford to live here. Taxes are outrageous. So whatever you do, don't vote what somebody's complaining about water. Vote what's right. The taxpayers' money. Okay? Please. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public commentary. I think we've seen the signs enough now. Why don't we take them down, take them out in the hall. I have no communications today. I have no vacancy appointments. Certificates of recognition for several people today for the years of service. From Highway Department, we have Nick LaLuna, Gary Winterog, 5 years each. Are they present today? If not, Health Department, we have Monica Barrera Meyer, 5 years. And Sheriff Department, we have 2 also 5-year employees, Michelle Bauer Hunt, Joni Hart. Are they present? And we have a 10-year employee with Health Department, Pamela Woodruff. Okay, we'll pass our certificates along then to those employees. Minutes of the last meeting have been distributed. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, is a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Mr. Washington with a motion, Mr. Marcotte with a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Claims Committee report.
December 23rd, 2008, Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your Committee on County Claims with Beg Leave report. They have examined the following claims presented. Recommend payment to the clerk and super authorized and directed to issue orders to the several claimants payable out of the fund as follows. From the general fund, $1,200,517.81. All other funds, $4,179,987.76, for a total of the month November 2008, $5,380,505.57. For the highway fund, $46,582.87. All other funds, $473,145.03, for a total of the month November 2008, $519,728.90. Roll call. Alderman Scholl. Mr. Campbell, Mr. Washington, Mr. Stopper, Mr. Foster.
Is there a motion to approve the Claims Committee report by Mr. Stauffenberg, a second by Mr. Scholl? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson.
Aye.
Mr. Stauffenberg.
Aye.
Mr. Whitten.
Aye.
Mrs. Bernard.
Aye.
Mr. Marcotte.
Aye.
Mr. James.
Aye.
Mr. McLaren.
Aye.
Mr. Vickery.
Aye.
Mrs. Schmidt.
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas.
Aye.
Mr. Scholl.
Aye.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Kalecki.
Aye.
Mrs. McBride. Mr. Yates.
Aye.
Mr. Hens. Aye. Mr. Whitus. Mr. Cohen. Mrs. Pope. Mr. Arsenault.
Aye.
Mr. Connell. Mr. Boswell.
Aye. Carries. Department reports.
County Collector's monthly report. We have examined the November 2008 monthly report of the County Treasurer, ex officio County Collector, to the best of our knowledge, to find it to be correct. County Treasurer's monthly report. We have examined the November 2008 monthly report of the County Treasurer, ex officio County Collector, to the best of our knowledge, to find it to be true and correct. The coroner's report for 2008, there were 18 coroner cases for November, 70 medical, 3 autopsies, 3 toxicologies, 15 natural, 5 other, 3 incomplete. There are fees of, for 2008, $1,514. The circuit clerk's report for the month of November. Total fees of the year-to-date collection of $3,791,694.30. The Recorder of Deeds report for the month of November 2008 of fees of $84,649.25. County Clerk's report for the month of November 2008 of fees of $10,374.65. Animal Control report for the month of November 2008, fees of $29,191.25. The monthly billing report for December 2008, total of $1,098. Excuse me. The January through December of 2008, fees are $21,458.
Pretty good. Any questions on the department reports? If not, do I have a motion to approve the department reports? Mr. Whitus, the motion, Mr. Kalecki with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda, we have several items presented under the consent agenda. Are there any questions or any requests to remove any item from that list? I have a motion by Mr. Hess and a second by Mr. Whitten. Why don't you read the...
Consent agenda items are animal control, declaration of surplus and unwanted property, a resolution approving GIS data sharing agreement between the County of Kankakee and Atty, Illinois, a award of bid for Section 9, General Maintenance 3, ZBA case 800814, Highview subdivision phase 1 release of letter of credit, a Fairway Oak subdivision release of letter of credit, intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Bourbonnais, and a contract agreement between the State of Illinois and Kankakee County's FAA Greenways and Trail Plan. And there is an authority to hire an economic alliance officer.
Discussion? Discussion? Okay, the motion, Mrs. Bernard, you have a question?
If I may. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What salary range are we looking at for the office manager?
Mr. Van Bill will answer that. It's on there someplace.
Yeah, it starts at 35,000.
Up to?
I think it's like 45 or 48, something in that range.
Anything else? We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Legess?
Aye.
Mr. Stauffenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Whitten?
Aye.
Mrs. Bernard?
Aye.
Mr. Marcotte?
Aye.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Mr. McLaren?
Aye.
Mr. Vickery?
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas?
Aye.
Mr. Scholl?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Colecki?
Aye.
Mrs. McBride?
Aye.
Mr. Yates?
Aye.
Mr. Enns?
Aye.
Mr. Whitus?
Aye.
Mr. Tholen?
Aye.
Mr. Pope? Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. McConnell? Mr. Bossert?
Aye. Motion carries. Under Planning and Zoning and Agriculture Committee, we have a presentation of a service agreement with the Economic Alliance for Economic Development. So I have a motion to adopt the 2009 service agreement from Mr. McLaren, second by Mr. Washington. Explanation, Mr. Van Meel.
Back in July of 2006, the county board passed a service agreement that created the Economic Alliance. It's a partnership between the Kankakee County Board and the private sector EDA to forward and foster a countywide economic development program for Kankakee County. This agreement institutionalizes this arrangement and set forth the conditions for how that partnership is to go forward. During the first year, we obviously we're amending it slightly to include a couple different provisions since the adoption. One being a month after we adopted this in July. In August, the state legislation passed a statutory, giving county statutory authority to do economic development for the county. And so we referenced that in this new service agreement. So what we wanted to do is look at the first year's operations. We wanted to do some minor tweaking to it, and this is the service agreement that came out of that. It's been reviewed by the PZA committee and also by the Economic Alliance, which is a composition of 7 county board members and 7 EDA members who make up that board.
Discussion? Discussion? Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to draw everybody's attention to page 2, section 3, if I could, please, of the agreement, the service agreement itself. I would like to amend the motion to have a change of language in this section. The last sentence says, "The party shall work with local municipalities and units of local government toward the creation, update, and implementation of," I'd like to take out the word "common," "economic development plans and goals," and I'd like to add these words: These plans and goals must coincide with the policies and directions of the county board and the governing body specific to the project.
Could you restate that, please?
These plans and goals must coincide with the policies and directions of the county board and the governing body specific to the project. And the reason being, I feel that the EDA should make a point of staying within the policies and the ordinances and the things that the county board have voted for and brought forth, and we have certain convictions, and I want to make sure that the EDA sticks to those convictions. So I'd like to make a motion.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Fuller? We have a motion and a second. Is there a discussion on this motion? Mr. Schultz?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with the idea of the county, but the second phrasing there, what are you opening that up to?
The part about the governing body specific to the project?
That's correct.
Well, it says that they'll work with local municipalities on their goals. I just want to make sure that they make sure that what they're working on with the EDA is specific to that particular government body's convictions also.
May I follow up there, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
Mr. Schultz.
Doesn't some of the respective municipal bodies, do they not have their own economic advisors, economic counsel? So this is reflective of ours, the counties, but taking into consideration the municipalities. I think it may open up a legal can of worms. I'd like to defer to State Attorney, if I could, for a clarification on that. What's the implications?
Short and sweet, I don't recommend any amendments to this service agreement. My office has spent a significant amount of time in reviewing proposed changes that were brought to us by the Economic Alliance, proposed changes that we thought might be appropriate that we brought back to the Economic Alliance, discussions between my office and Mr. Van Mill's office, and Mr. Van Mill's office and the PZA board, and the PZA board, and members of the Economic Alliance, and this is the agreement we got. No offense to Ms. Hertzberger, people who are much closer to this situation have drafted this document. If you don't like it, vote no. To this board, I would say this: if you are recommending an amendment to an agreement that we put this much time into, and you want to amend it, understand that that means then we don't have an agreement. And we'll take that back to the Economic Alliance, and they can tell us how they want to change this.
Well, let me make maybe this, I think we're talking about policy here and the way going forward. At the beginning of this section, it does say that the parties agree that the county shall be the economic development agency of record. There are 7 county board members on the alliance. I think that possibly those are the checks and balances if we're saying, we want to make sure we're consistent with the economic goals and policies of the county board. I think that's reflective and intrinsic and within the whole makeup of the organization. So I'm hoping that that is implied to a certain extent, that we are following the goals and policies of what the county board sets forth. And they're doing that through this, as well as what we're trying to do with municipality, whether it's Moments or Mantino, Chabance, St. Anne, Herscher, what have you. Those things are microeconomic development plans for the larger group.
Mr. McLaren has his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although I do understand the motioner's thought process, probably why to put this information in, I do have to echo a little bit what Mr. Van Mill said. We do have 7 county board members and 7 from the private sector that make up the Economic Alliance. We have been put in this position to act in the best interest of the county, and that is what has been happening. And the reason why there is 7 and 7 and not an odd number of people on this alliance was a safeguard, just in case an issue would come up
to where the county might not agree with the private sector. And if it was 7 and 7, things would not move forward. And I think that's one of the reasons why we kept it at 7 and 7. So we do have the representation up there. We do have the county board members that have been on the board, looking out for the best interest, and I don't think we need an amendment to this.
Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To me, implication is not good enough. I mean, and I understand that the state's attorney's office is busy and he's got a lot on his plate, but this is one sentence.
That's not what I said. And I'm not talking about not amending this because my office is busy and there's a lot on its plate. This is a document we spent a lot of time on. Your change is inappropriate.
I'm Jamie, okay? I'm not trying to get you upset, and I'm trying to be hard to get along with you, okay? So, relax. And I have the floor. This is just a sentence, and it's just to clarify what this section, I think, should say. I don't see any harm in it, and I kind of agree with Bob. I kind of went back and forth on the last part of that, and if we take that out, I don't have a problem with that. If we just make the motion to say the plans and goals must coincide with the policies and directions of the county board, period, is fine with me. And I don't see that that's a big issue, and if we vote on it today, we do have an agreement.
Mr. Nicholas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Does this service agreement give the Economic Alliance some inherent powers or something to supersede or circumvent anything that the county board or the local units of government have in place?
No.
Absolutely not. So I don't understand where we're going with this.
Mrs. Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to agree with Karen. I think we could strike the last part of that out. And the reason I think it's important to have an additional state sentence saying what Karen's sentence says is because it's one thing to say you are the agency of record. It's like saying Kankakee High School is the high school for District 11. But it's another thing to say how the rules are going to be implemented or how the policy is going to be driven. You can say a building is a building, like the school, but you have to have something that's going to tell you how you're going to implement the rules in the school, the hours of operation, the discipline, etc. And I think it is important to include a sentence like this because the county, you have to look at this from a holistic viewpoint. As the economic agency, we're setting the direction, plus we're also funding this. We're bankrolling this, at least three-fourths, I believe, of this operation. So it's important that we ensure that this agency at least dovetails or coincides with the county policy. We don't want to have an agency that we're funding going out and contradicting the board.
In the last year, we tried to do that. We've provided you with the annual work program in the organization. The county board has adopted it. We've given you the items in which we go with. It sets forth those type of things that are policy driven and everything. I'm sorry.
Thank you, it's okay. But I think it's important that when the county establishes a policy or we vote on something that we don't have Alliance board members or officials contradicting what the board is doing or, what has been said. And so I think putting another sentence in like this is a harmless addition. And also, I just want to remind the board, because my gray hairs can attest that I've been here for 12 years. But one thing I want to mention is we are the decision makers. The same issue came up a few weeks ago in committee where the state's attorney said you cannot amend it. You either vote it up or down. We are his client. We are their client. So if we want a change in there and we vote to do it, the state's attorney obliges us. Just remember that. We are the decision makers. The buck stops right here.
All right.
Let's make that committee discussion, as I recall, we were being admonished to not be drafting language for resolutions on the floor of a committee or on the floor of the full board. Doesn't mean that we cannot do that, and yet there's a protocol and procedure to follow in doing that. Mr. Click.
I'm just a little bit confused, and I'm not against the modification. I'm just curious. This is an agreement between two parties, the county board and the Economic Alliance of Kankakee County Incorporated. If we change this now on the floor and vote on it, that they haven't agreed to our changes, have they? I mean, we're agreeing on something that both sides sat down, worked out a contract, came to the board for our stamp of approval, for our agreement on it. Now, if we're changing information on the floor, we just changed the agreement that, you know, was made in the past. Doesn't the Economic Alliance get to say in this change?
The alliance.
The amendment would have to go back to them for approval, but, you know, we can do that. I mean, that's, if whatever the language that would come out of here, we would go back and have them ratify that.
Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. By what said earlier in the paragraph, I think the incision would be redundant and absolutely not necessary. And secondly, I'd like to call a question.
Vote on that. Is there any other questions?
Roll call.
Mr. Washington, did you have something? Let's clarify the vote. Can we reread the amendment? Somebody have it in writing.
I'd like to add these words. I'd like to take out the word common and add, these plans and goals must coincide with the policies and directions of the county board.
These plans and goals must coincide with the plans and goals.
The policies and directions of the county board.
Policies and direction. County board. Got it?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that's different from the original motion.
Well, I amended it. So, I took out what that was. You want me to add back in?
I don't care what you do as long as
I think you
it's
need to
motion
probably
second.
withdraw your original motion and then restate your motion in the proper order.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I withdraw my original motion.
Is that okay with the seconder, Mr. Foley? The motion is withdrawn.
And I'd like to have the motion that we add, these plans and goals must coincide with the policies and directions of the county board.
Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Foley again.
Roll call, please.
Motion and a second, a roll call vote.
Is this called a question or?
This is voting on the motion to amend. Roll call vote. Mr. Ansel.
Would you re-clarify that? What I vote?
We are voting in favor or against an amendment to the service agreement.
Mr. Tripp?
No.
Mr. Washington?
Nay.
Mr. Legess? Nay. Mr. Stauffenberg?
Nay.
Mr. Whitten?
Nay.
Mrs. Bernard?
Aye.
Mr. Marcotte?
Nay.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Mr. McLaren?
Nay.
Mr. Vickery?
Aye.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas?
Nay.
Mr. Scholl?
Nay.
Mr. Hess?
Nay.
Mrs. Campbell?
Nay.
Mr. Kalecki?
Nay.
Mrs. McBride?
Nay.
Mr. Yates?
Nay.
Mr. Inns?
Aye.
Mr. Whitus?
Nay.
Mr. Tholen?
The whole thing.
Aye.
Mrs. Pope? Mr. Arsenault?
Nay.
Mr. McConnell?
Nay.
Mr. Foster?
Motion fails 18-7. We're back to the original motion to approve the service agreement. Further discussion? Mr. Yates?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I voted in favor of this a year ago. And I have been, for the most part, for the most part, I have been attending these, their meetings. And for the most part, I agree with what the...
I'm sorry.
Test.
I'll translate it, go ahead.
Thank you.
I'll take a cup of coffee.
I'm sorry, we are gonna get this fixed.
I host a series called In My Own Words. For the most part, been in favor of what the Economic Alliance has been doing to this point. They have brought some businesses to the community. And at a meeting this past Thursday, I believe it was pointed out some of the new endeavors that have been entered into. New businesses coming to the community, endeavors which have brought several banks together to go about creating loans and things along that line. I think that's all great, fine, and dandy. I got just one concern. Because in the back of my mind, February a year ago, I've yet to have this addressed, to hear anyone address it. I reviewed Equal Employment Opportunity Report dated 30 November 07. I compared that with the Equal Employment Opportunity Report from November 05. And in that report, I saw an increase of 244 employees by the county government. Out of that 244 employees by the county government, I saw a net increase of 3 blacks. Cannot justify, cannot rationalize numbers like that type of disparity. So with that in mind, I turned to the Economic Alliance and I read about the discrimination and all those clauses, la-di-di-la-di-da, all those clauses in the agreement. And I'm asking you to, I would like for someone, not right now, I want someone to tell me how many minorities have been hired out of all the jobs that have come in the past year by the Alliance. And then and we certainly I'll get that information in no uncertain term. But I bring to your attention the fact that in the coming year, that there needs to be some indication, some measures taken to do something to do with minority hiring, because I don't see it happening, and that's the one concern that I have. Thank you.
Further discussion? Further discussion on the main motion? Mr. Clay.
I'd just like to add to this that over the last 2 years that I've been on the county board, I have seen a lot of things come through, a lot of different resolutions and different things that this board has done, and by far the Economic Alliance is one of the things I'm most proud of. I really have seen a positive impact in our community. I mean, especially with the revolving loan that was issued to SLK's what was the company? UDS to keep the jobs in this community. There's a lot of things.
Let me change the tape here.
You need another demo? Not yet, I got a couple pages left.
Good? Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there are a lot of things that we do on a daily basis, monthly, weekly basis that are standard housekeeping, and it's nice to see something like this that you can actually judge the positive impact on the community.
Thank you. Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would encourage everyone to vote for this. This is something that we drastically need, especially the economic conditions throughout the county. I mean, we need to bring more and more jobs. This is an organization that is gaining momentum, and I think has a fantastic future for Kankakee County. Thank you.
I would reiterate Mr. Schultz's comments. I think there have been a few growing pains with the Alliance, but overall there's been positive developments, and it's a good working group that are bringing some positive changes to our community. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Legess?
Aye.
Mr. Stauffenberg?
Aye.
Mr. Witten?
Aye.
Mrs. Bernard?
Aye.
Mr. Marcotte? Mr. James?
Aye.
Mr. McLaren?
Aye.
Mr. Vickery?
Aye.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Plecky?
Aye.
Mrs. McBride? Mr. Yates?
Aye.
Mr. Hens?
Aye.
Mr. Whitus?
Aye.
Mr. Zoll? Aye. Mr. Pope? Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. McConnell? Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. From Finance Committee, resolution authorizing the county board chairman to execute the Redeploy Illinois grant agreement for the benefit of the Kankakee County Juvenile Probation Department. I have a motion from Mr. McLaren, a second from Mr. Washington. Why don't we read the resolution?
Resolution of the County Board of Kankakee County, Illinois, whereas the Kankakee County Juvenile Probation Department received notice of approval on December 1, 2008 regarding their application for the Redeploy Illinois grant through the Illinois Department of Human Services, and whereas Redeploy Illinois took effect December 1, 2003 with the purpose of encouraging the deinstitutionalization of juvenile offenders in the state of Illinois. This program provides selected counties with funding for community-based services, which can include untreated mental illness, substance abuse, learning disabilities, unstable living arrangements, and many other issues. And whereas the Criminal Justice Committee at its regularly scheduled meeting of December 16, 2008, after review, discussion, and consideration, recommended referral of the matter to the Finance Committee, and at its regularly scheduled meeting of December 23, 2008, the Finance Committee recommended approval and acceptance of the grant. Now therefore be resolved that after review, consideration, and discussion upon receipt of the grant agreement, the chairman of the county board is authorized and directed to execute and enter into the Redeployment Illinois grant agreement. The committee recommends the adoption of this resolution duly submitted by Mr. McLaren, Mr. Hess, Mr. Enns, Mr. LeJust, Mr. Marcotte, Mr. Nicholas, Mrs. Polk, Mr. Tripp, Mr. Whitten, Mr. Yates, and Mr. Foster.
This resolution originated in the Criminal Justice Committee and then gained approval and then moved on to the Finance Committee where it was also approved. Maybe we could have a bit of explanation if we need it. Does anybody want to hear a little more background on this one? Sure. Mr. Einfeld, I see, is here. Perhaps he could offer a few words.
Good morning. Any questions regarding this specifically that maybe I could answer? Real briefly, the program was originated to try to reduce the commitment rate of youth in the counties throughout Illinois to the Illinois Department of Corrections. We are a second go-around. There was a phase 1 program that brought in some counties about 2 years ago or 3 years ago. The result of those first programs has been very successful. So we were approached by these people to be a phase 2 essentially, and that's why we brought it to you, and we appreciate your consideration on this matter. So thank you. Yes?
Mrs. Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How far have you then reduced your commitment rate by 25%? For those
This is to get the program started today, and we just received the agreement yesterday.
Okay, because the letter says your counties that receive redeploy funds must reduce their average commitment rate of minors for the years 2005, 6, and 7.
Those were the first counties that started.
Okay. So are you still under that same requirement, the
Yes.
25%? Okay.
Yes, we are. Our 25% reduction would, for Kankakee, based on our commitment rate, would be about 8 youth.
Mr. Arsenault?
And Rick, just to let everybody know too, it is 100% reimbursement too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion? We'll roll call vote, please. I'm sorry, Mr. Yates.
This is the chair's thing, something else here.
I'm sorry.
In committee, we discussed this topic. And again, as I'm sad to say, let me first caveat and say that my concern is right and wrong. It's not black and white. But I'm really concerned about minority hiring in this county because I don't see any indication of it, quite frankly. And as we discussed this particular topic, this redeployment program, again, it was pointed out that some 68% of the youth who may potentially enter this program are black. And it seems only apparent to me that if we're going to take a realistic approach at fixing the problem, which this program is designed to do, and I'm all for that. But if the goal is to fix the problem, I think we should put some measures in place to help set this program up for success. And part of doing that, as far as I'm concerned, should be serious consideration of who we're going to hire, and can the 68% of the people who youths who we expect to enter this program, can they identify with them? So let's again consider, as we do the hiring for this program, let's consider the 68% of the people who potential youths who are expected to go through this program or enter into it anyway, and let's set someone up who these kids can identify with. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tripp? Aye. Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Judd? Aye. Mr. Stopford?
Aye.
Mr. Whitten? Aye. Mrs. Menard?
Aye.
Mr. Marquette?
Aye.
Mr. James? Aye. Mr. McLaren?
Aye.
Mr. Vickery?
Aye.
Mr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas?
Aye.
Mr. Scholl? Aye. Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Pilecki? Aye. Mr. Bride?
Aye.
Mr. Yates?
Aye.
Mr. Inns? Aye. Mr. Whitus?
Aye.
Mr. Solon?
Aye.
Mr. Pope? Mr. Arsenault?
Aye.
Mr. McConnell?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on, we have no old business, unfinished business, so we will move on to items listed under new business. Mr. Schultz?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under old business, I'd like to bring up something that was discussed previously. As far as demonstrations within the chambers, I believe it was agreed or established some time ago that placards, billboards, and such were not to be allowed within the chambers. I would like to examine that, have that examined, and policy established on that one way or the other if possible.
Duly noted. Mr. Whitten?
Hey, number 10. Thank you, Chairman. On that same token, the speakers should give their address when they speak. That's within the minutes also. Thank you.
When they register to speak, they list their
But we don't know what their address is.
business camp.
We're gonna have to get you a game card up
Yes.
there. Who's on first? This really isn't old business. This concerns the Veterans Assistance Commission. If you remember, Dick Campbell, my husband, brought up last year that he had obtained $10,000 through a scratch-off grant for the veterans to receive eyeglasses and dental work because that isn't covered under the VA. Well, he applied for another one and recently, so if you do know veterans, Dick just received another grant in the amount of $30,000 this time for the veterans.
Thank you. Under new business, let me jump ahead 1 minute.